Hello, everybody. Hope we're all having a great weekend. This is 50 Pips rocking and rolling 24th of January 2016. Not making any trade calls or recommendations because you only your response for the trades you may decide to take. And the fact you're listening to this means you've read your understanding. You accept all disclosures and disclaimers on the blog, understanding that we're just performing some technical analysis in a learning context for educational purposes only. So what's happening? We had a fairly interesting week. Let's get cracking and look at what the charts are saying and what we can expect for next week. Next week should be fairly interesting. Keep in mind that we've got Draghi speaking on Monday. We've got Carney, BOE, speaking on Tuesday. We've got the FOMC statement, so the Fed, on Wednesday. We also have an RBNZ rate statement on Wednesday. We're going to have the BOJ speaking on Friday, so it should be a fairly interesting week. So what do the charts tell us? Well, what we were talking in the last update, right, what we focused on is we said heads up, all these equities, it's all about equities, right, and we're coming into big support zones, and if they're going to bounce, right, if this is if we're not going to get something that looks extremely ugly, this is likely a place where we'd expect things to catch a bit of a bid, right? So if you look at the Dow, came back into the support zone, cleared some stops, just poked its head below this previous support, and then bam, we've put in a positive weekly close. So basing where we'd expect it to base, right? For a moment, it kind of got ugly last week. NASDAQ, what's going on? NASDAQ, we came back much purer in terms of the hold. We came into this double support zone, caught a bid right where you'd expect it to catch a bid, reversed off that level, and then came in with ending the week with a nice positive close on the weekly, right? Similar thing on the ES. Where's our ES weekly chart? We came right back down. We clipped these stops right here just below, then bam, reversed right back into those highs, positive close on the weekly. So it looks like we've put in, or it's attempting to put in, some kind of a short-term bottom, right? We discussed this throughout the week, and what we said is that, we saw some fairly interesting action, right? Especially when it came back into that level, right? You see, if you're just looking at it on the weekly, like, you've got these multiple support zones, right? This wick down here, we had this next low here. So this was all that level where it could find a bid, right? So if you look at back in a lower time frame, you look at something like a daily or even a 1 hour chart, you see that we pierced right into the zone, and then right back, bam, into there. We put in a nice reversal candle, positive close at lows right inside that area, and we moved right back out. Okay, once we moved back out, what we discussed is that there were a lot of interesting things to look at in terms of dynamics, and what we said is, right, that's that 1 hour positive close at lows. Is we discussed this, I believe, in the live session too. What we said here, now that we've put this level, you want to keep a very close eye now on this breakdown on the Thursday, right? That Thursday we tried to base, then we kind of clipped it on Friday, and then moved right back above that Thursday low, right? So as far as we're concerned, this was really the line in the sand. This was the key Momo level. So on this base, we said most likely market will try and put in an aggressive move back into this level, and this is the level to watch. This is going to be the Momo line. So shorts looking to get back in at that level, back above, more Momo to the long side. See what happened? We came right back into their previous support, that key zone from Thursday, bam, market sells it again. And what happens here? Now we start to get some fairly nice text moving, because you see we come all the way back, we put in a low, nice reversal, we move back into previous support, acting as resistance, we reverse, bam, 50 back of the move off highs gets bought, and bam, we're off to try to cover some more room to the upside through the 123. Next thing we'd probably be looking at is 1910s, 1917. So very technical, very nice move back to the upside. So what are we expecting? And that's that 1900 we were talking about last week. So what we're looking at going into the week here is this 1900 to be the pivotal zone, right? So above 1900, we'd expect the market to continue to hold a bid tone and try to make its way back to the 1950s, even though there'll probably be a lot of sellers all the way here. If you look back to the chart, you'll see there'll probably be a lot of sellers trying to come in anywhere inside these 1920s all the way into those 1950s. But clearly, as long as we keep on closing from a day perspective above 1900, those 1950s will come into play, right? And if we move back below, then what I would watch in terms of the first support is more interesting, is right back down into that Thursday low that we said was such a pivotal level, right? So I think here we've got a risk is the risk reward is stacked back to the upside in terms of the possible resistance being further than the closest support. I suspect any dip here will probably get bought. If we get a daily close below this level, then I'd expect this to start trading with a very heavy tone and to try and take out those 1850s very quickly and possibly come all the way back here. So this is really probably the most important level to watch. Right here, the fact that it's closed bid, you've got a lot of things closing at highs. Most likely they'll try to maybe gap up a little bit and get some more traction to the upside. So again, keep in mind, we've got a lot of central banks speak during this week. It could be funky, but at least it looks like we've put in some kind of intermediate low and the market's trying to rotate a little bit higher. It looks like, I think as anybody can see, is that basically it's moving, equities are moving pretty much lockstep with crude, right? And what happened is we're catching this bounce on crude, right? We came right back into those lows, put in a little basing, and you see the market starting to rally off those lows, actually rallying on bad news. So when we start to rally on bad news, chances are we've got a decent low in, at least for now. Again, the way I'm looking at crude is that I still expect this to continue to trade fairly heavy, and the way I'm looking at it here is clearly, especially when we close so aggressively to the upside, there might still be some business to be taken out to the upside. So if we fail, we'll probably need to fail from higher. So I think here, as long as these lows hold, there's a risk that we're going to try and move back up into this channel high, most likely try and take it out and move back towards this key level, right, where we got that aggressive bounce off. I think that was back in August. Everybody who was short in August probably remembers that bounce quite nicely, right? So if we move all the way back here, this is the key zone, right? I think it's 3770s pretty much, right? And that's going to be the pivotal level. So there's no reason why we can't move back up into those 3770s. That's going to be the key as far as I'm concerned. Daily close above, then it could start to get very ugly for the shorts. We could see 43s, another $3 to the upside fairly quickly. Daily close below, then no reason for this to continue the downside. So right here, we're in a corrective move, in a bearish trend. We expect the market to try and move very quickly to this upside, try and move back into the 33s, 34 levels. If it can get traction here, then 3770s, that's the key level to watch for the week. Upside resistance, downside support into those lows, and a lot of wheeling and dealing inside that zone. And linked to that was pretty much what's going on. You can look at the commodity currencies, right? Kiwi, we discussed this range and we said it looks like if it needs to catch a bid, it'll need to catch a bid from lower, and we're looking at this a zone right here, right? We had the upside and we had the downside. Very, very nice action in the sense that we came right back down, clipped those stops, could not get any traction below, couldn't get a daily close below, tried again, couldn't get a daily close below, closed very, very bearish outside of the zone, and then the next day, bam, flush the shorts, positive close back inside this bigger area, right? So keep in mind, we've got that RB and Z. We'll have to see if they cut or not. I think consensus is not for a cut, but for them to be, pretty much signal a cut soon. So we'll have to see what happens. But as long as this low holds, I would not be surprised to see 6660s trade again, and that's going to be the pivotal level inside this broader range, which, we're still in range. It's still a range trade. And, similar kind of Aussie, we got that very aggressive trade break below these lows, and the fact that we're trading back above, at least short term, will probably mean that we need to try and probe higher, and I'd be looking at those 70s, 71s, 70, 90s, and that's going to be the pivotal level for the week. We get sold there, then resumption of the downtrend. If we start to get a daily close above, then I would not be surprised to see that descending trend line get tested very, very quickly. Okay, so all the charts are on the blog. Nothing much has changed there. Euro GPB, we discussed that, we expect this is the favorite structural short from a lot of the players. And if this was going to get sold, we expected two zones, either a front run of this 50 back at this previous support to act as resistance. If that went, then we would be not trying to short it until much higher up, right? So can't ask for more than this. If you look at it on a 4-hour chart, you actually got a pure 4-hour reversal right at that level. You didn't even have to have an order in the system, pure little reversal right at that zone. So, so far is behaving extremely technically. Very, very nice action. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't really change. It's the same thing we've been discussing. Right now, we've got this 74.90s, call it 75s if you want, pivotal. Back below, resumption of the bearish trend down, hold above, then probably trying to make its way back up in a bigger correction. But so far, the first resistance, it's doing its job. Game's going to be played around day closes above or below this 74.90s. Okay. What else have we got? Yen, nice little bounce. So we actually had, the BOJ, on that time when the ES was pressing those lows, and actually USD JPY pressed into below those 116s. The BOJ was on the wire saying they were watching the currency, effective, verbal intervention. So what we said the following day, as soon as we came back in, discussed it on Twitter, I said, heads up, 116.50 into 116.00. This is where the BOJ was active. Chances are this is going to catch a bid here, or if it doesn't, the BOJ is going to be active again. Beautiful little rotation back above there. So again, pretty pure central banks giving a couple of free rides this week. Another chart we have on the blog that we don't look at usually is so the ruble, USD ruble. Fairly rare to see this kind of pattern. It's not a pure Banda Baby because it actually closed positive, but when you see this kind of action, it's really interesting just to keep an eye on it. You won't see this pattern a lot. When you see this kind of pattern, if you come in, you don't have to trade it, but usually it's not a high odds trade to try and get long into this, right? If anything, you just got to sell it, right? Whether you're looking for a scalp, whether you're looking for a bigger correction, I don't want to get into 3 million ways of playing this, but the bottom line, the reason I posted it is just, pay attention to these patterns. When you see something like that, the last thing you want to do is get long. If you're holding longs, you probably want to cut. Even if that means you're going to reload lower, but it's something that it's interesting to pay attention to. And then another commodity related, CAD. Again, we discussed the fact that we were sellers at any failure to break and hold above any new round number, but what we were stalking on the monthly was the 78.6 that was coming into this basically 147, just ahead of the 147 as a big level to watch. A lot of people would have been looking at this zone, and we had it highlighted on our chart, actually posted it on the blog too. And again, can't ask for pure action. Back into this level, 1 hour negative close right here, rejection of this zone, and then bam, all the way back down. Beautiful little action. Again, we discussed in detail. We really didn't see how you'd possibly, especially after the BOC or other government officials have been talking about, the weaker currency, people trying to get long into that rate decision, really didn't make an awful lot of sense to us. But anyway, not to talk about fundies and stuff like that. Here, what I'd be looking at going into the week is the same thing. I'd be looking at 141 bull bear line for the week, 142 to the upside, 140 to the downside. It looks like this correction may have still have legs. It doesn't mean it can't bounce, but I would not be surprised to see it trade back into the 140, and that be the key level to watch for this week. Okay, so guys, again, I got a lot of positive feedback on the live session. We hadn't done those for a while. Again, if we get a lot of interest, again, if people like it, I'll try and do those once a month or once every 5 weeks or something like that. So as usual, thank you so much for listening. Thanks for sharing, retweeting. It's the best way for me to get a gauge if people like the content. So the more people like it, and especially those live sessions, free live sessions, we'll do them. I don't mind doing them on a monthly basis. Have an awesome one. Have a great week. Thank you for listening as always. Bye bye, guys.